All right, everyone. This session, we're going to be talking about homeschooling high schoolers. There's always that little moment of panic when you get to that level, the what I don't know, what is it that I don't know, and that weight of responsibility suddenly feels heavy again. So if that is you, you are in the right place. And I've brought with us several experienced and expert advisors to help facilitate this conversation about what do we do when we're homeschooling high school. So we've got with us the director of TSCHAA, Lara Caldwell, and the director from CHASC, Wendy Graham, and a co-director, high school advisor from the Palmetto Homeschool Association, Tara Bruce. So welcome, you guys, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, so go ahead, get us started a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your organization, about your high school policies and perspectives and, things that you include, services you provide or require for your association as well. Says that's our topic at hand.
Hey, I'm Lara Caldwell. I'm director of the South Carolina Homeschool Accountability Association. We are a non-ranking association. And so we leave record keeping up to the parents as stated in the law, but we do offer transcripts, report cards, and diplomas for an extra fee.
I'm Wendy Graham with Christian Homeschoolers Association, because nobody can decide if it's CHASC or CHASC. So we do rank high school students now. We started in 2017, 16, somewhere in there. So our policies evolved a little bit. We have an extra high school student fee to cover the time and expenses that go into the ranking. High schoolers get transcripts as part of that, both a ranked and unranked transcript. Then there's a graduation packet with a diploma and letter and different things. So that's our difference.
Okay. And I am the transcript director for Palmetto Homeschool Association. So we offer ranked transcripts for 9th through 12th grade. That is an extra fee, but we now require all of our members to be part of the transcript program simply because we have had so many students come back from years past now needing ranked transcripts from their option 3 group for life choices they're making. And when I say past, I think the record is a little over 12 years past, 12 to 15. And so a couple of years ago now, we went from a transcript being optional to a transcript being required. We do also offer a diploma, and we base our diploma on the South Carolina diploma requirements, but we do not require our members to get a diploma through us.
Right.
So they can still, if they just want to hit the basics for high school that option 3 law requires, that is perfectly fine with us. They would still need to submit grades and have a ranked transcript, but they're not required to meet the diploma requirements unless they want to get a diploma through us. That's optional. We also offer an optional graduation ceremony for our members at the end of the year. It is usually the first weekend in June. And so members that choose to participate in that, there's a small fee for that. And we, otherwise, we nominate for Palmetto Fellows. We do not charge additionally for that nomination. We fill out all that paperwork. And
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So what they're explaining, for those of you who just went, my mind just blew, I have no idea what they're talking about. What they're explaining is some of the services that are required, those things that you don't know. A lot of these associations, most associations are now offering a variety of services, whether they're optional, like Lara was explaining, or required. So those are important things to consider as you're moving into high school, if you need to switch associations and want some of these kinds of services to help you. Because Here we go. We're going to start at the beginning. The parent is ultimately responsible for the record keeping, right? So we go back to, let's start with what the homeschool law requires us to do, the record keeping requirements of what the law requires us to do. So whichever one of you feels like answering that.
So just the basic law, is that what you're looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, so basically it says core subjects. It's English, which 7th and up, which would be high school, would be your literature and composition. And then your science, your math, and your, oh goodness, what I leave out?
Social studies.
Social studies. So basically those core subjects, 180 days, keeping up with progress reports and your attendance and lesson plans and samples of student work is all the law says.
Right. That's the minimum the law says to do. And so for those of us who've been down this road many times, we understand that you could follow that. But when you get to the end of doing that, it doesn't open the doors of opportunity for your student to have just that on their academic resume. And so you could go and just take a test, a GED, that shows that you've reached the equivalent of a high school education. But instead of doing that, a lot of us are saying we don't necessarily have to go get the GED. Why don't we take our academic resume, put it together? That's what I always call the transcript. It's just an academic resume that shows what you've accomplished so that it opens the doors of opportunity for your child past high school. And so that's what the transcript is about. So how do you guys go about recommending and advising what goes on that transcript instead of, as opposed to what's on the homeschool requirements in the law? What do you say should go on a transcript?
Well, for us, the first question that we ask is, are they interested in pursuing a diploma through us? Because if they are interested in pursuing a diploma through us, then we recommend that starting even in 9th grade, that they print out the diploma worksheet that we provide and start filling in the blanks as to those 24 units and what they need to be in. And that gives an idea of what subjects you need to do. And that's available on our website, and Denise will work with anyone to try to figure that out more. If they're saying, no, we're not interested in getting a diploma through you, then we say, the option 3 law, like she said, English, which is literature composition, math, science, social studies, and now I've left one off.
English, math, science, social studies.
No, you got them all.
You did it.
I got it all.
You did better than me.
So, and then in that case, they would just need to do those core subjects. Either way, they keep their own records. They keep their syllabus. If it's an honors level course, they keep, copies of their students' work, all of that. All we request that they turn into us is when they're applying, if it's honors, they do an honors affidavit. They submit final grades online, and I use those to generate the transcript. And then any supporting documents. And what I mean by supporting document, if your student is doing a dual enrollment course, then a supporting document is from the college, the final transcript from the college, and the numeric, if they want to have the actual numeric grades documentation for that. But
you're jumping ahead about the weight values and things like that. We're just trying to determine the course of study and what goes on the transcript. So hold on.
So all of that, the parents keep the records. The parents are responsible for all of that. They submit to me final grades and supporting documentation once they've determined, are they going for a diploma or are they not?
Okay.
And we have a planning sheet as well for graduation, and our planning sheet's based off what the public schools follow. But then I also have a link at the bottom that takes you to the South Carolina Commission on Higher Education, because they're recommending the specific courses for college. And I do always recommend that if you have a college in mind, to look at that specific college, because some may require 3 years of foreign language, some may require 2. And so knowing that before you get started is important.
And if
Yeah,
you just,
we have that also.
Yeah. and then if you don't know where you're aiming to go, then
Aim
I
for
just say aim for the equivalent to the high school diploma standard. That is what you mentioned on the Department of Ed. That's what the public schoolers are aiming for. And I do think it's interesting that, like you said, colleges, some of the colleges want 2 or 3 years of a foreign language, consecutive years, and the same foreign language.
Yeah.
But the diploma standard says foreign language or a career. So a lot of kids, like, that's one of the things. It's like, if you have a student who's like really struggling and cannot get this foreign language thing done, like, there is an option. You don't necessarily have to choose that course of study for your high school and still get a diploma standard equivalent transcript. So I think that's always helpful to kind of point out some of these nuances of difference, because I'll see people that are like freaking out going, I'm never going to get 2 or 3 years of a foreign language. I was like, well, do you know where you're going? No. Probably tech. Well, then you don't need to worry. You don't need to struggle with all these things. But yes, but if you do know where you're aiming to go, then the admissions requirements might be different. So again, you just got to figure out which of these things, which of these doors of opportunity am I trying to keep open, and you don't have to keep all of them open, though.
Yeah, and I do always remind parents that high schoolers are so fickle. So, you know, aim as high as you possibly can, because they're going to change their mind a lot.
And even after high school, they do change their minds, and you know, so yeah, I tell people, try not to ever close any doors. You know, start with our guidances, start with the graduation requirements, but do check. And if you're not sure, if your child's thinking, I want to go to college, but I don't know which one, look at several different ones and just get an impression. And sometimes if they're looking at it, like I had a child who decided, I'm not going into that career because I do not want to do physics. I do not want to do this. I do not want to do that. And went into a different area. So sometimes looking at the requirements will help them kind of decide where they want to go. But, you know, I try, you know, having, and in my family, boys change their minds more than girls do about career. Girls change their mind a lot more about the clothing, but the career option is completely different. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, and I, you know, try to, we have our parents submit their course plan in the fall so that we can kind of look over and make sure, like, you are doing, because we recommend shooting for 6 credits every semester to make it every year to make it easier to get there at the end with the 24. But we also have the list of what the 4-year colleges require versus what graduation requirements are, because they are different. And we have a list of what different options they have for electives and other things outside of that, because people are thinking, well, do I have to add 3 more English classes, or what classes? And it's like, well, you have the PE and computer science and foreign language, and like there are a lot of things they can add that they don't necessarily remember when they're getting started. So, you know, instead of just having, you know, this box that says electives, yes, electives can be English, math, science, or social studies if your child's interested in those areas. But those other credits that are there, there's 7 credits, I think, on the graduation and the South Carolina diploma list. That can be all of these other things, you know. Creative writing is, yes, but so is computer science, you know. So
Drama.
Music.
We have the 2 lists available too. And one thing that I find interesting is the admissions requirements for colleges. They actually require less electives, less units, less credits than the diploma requirements, because I think they're like 20 or 21.
Okay.
And whereas the diploma requirement is 24. So we have that conversation with parents. And another thing that I have conversations with our parents about is the math credits, because the math credits, you're led to believe that you have to have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, Geometry, and Pre-Cal, which is the requirement for a 4-year college. But if your student struggles in math and they know they're not going to a 4-year college, high school level math does not have to be Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, and pre-cal. It can be general math, business math, statistics, those kinds of things, to where they can meet the math requirements to get the diploma and to even go to a tech school, but those would not get them into the four-year school. So we spend time talking to the parents about that, because they're like, well, my kid, we're struggling with pre-algebra. How are we going to do, all of this? And that's not a requirement under the law. And it's not even a requirement under a diploma, that it be Algebra 1, Algebra 2, pre-cal, trig, all that stuff.
Right. And
Depending
they
on
can
what
still
they
get.
do- I'm sorry, depending on what they do at the tech class, through tech, they can transfer after their 2 years to a full year.
Right.
So that's
Yes.
always, that's a bit less expensive route sometimes.
It is, yes. So that the door of opportunity to get to that four-year degree isn't closed just because you can't get those freshman admissions requirements. So if they can't get those higher maths or those languages and they're struggling with that in high school, let's not burn them out. Let's let them, get through what they need to do at this moment so they can get to this next door of opportunity. And the path is still there. It's just that particular direct door. It's a side route to get there.
If they're not going to math or math heavy career choices, they might not have to get all the way to pre-calc. They might, a lot of the 4 years will be okay with getting through Algebra 2, and then maybe a statistics or something like that. I've seen that. So yeah, and that.
I just wanted to say, if your child's not a math heavy person, geometry is so different than the other maths. Don't give up and don't try geometry. Because a lot of students who don't succeed in the other maths actually do really well in geometry.
Right.
And the funny thing that I've noticed is that children who are not necessarily really strong at the primary, they hate math, the basic math, when they get into it, my math hater got into Algebra 1, 2, went through Calc 2, did dual, when he got to Algebra 2, he's like, can I start dual credit and just do my at college? And he went, did all the way through dual credit with Calc 2. And he hated math, but the higher math was more to his liking. So, children,
Right. So that's our course of study, how to figure out what are we going to put and how are we going to choose things. Now let's talk a little bit about the different ways to get a credit. So, how do I know it's worth a credit? how do I know what to do?
Okay, what I usually tell parents is, if it is a published curriculum, Bob Jones, Abeka, whatever, they're all out there, then go by what the publisher says. The publishers are pretty clear on whether a course is a half credit or a full credit. And so you just go back to your publisher and if you complete 80% or whatever the magic number is of that material, then you have earned whatever they're saying the credit count is. If it is a dual credit course, it is a full credit high school. It's, whatever the college says it is, 2, 3, 4, it is a 1 credit for high school. If it is,
jump ahead.
Well, you said how you determine credit count.
The content versus hours.
Right. And if it's something like
be calculated based on hours.
Yeah.
Right.
If it's
time invested, I can't go out and I can't read a certain amount of material and say I've done PE.
Right.
Woohoo, I read it. I read all my PE for the day.
Well, and I had parents say, my son did 240 hours to complete that biology. And so is it that 2 credits? And I'm like, no, because the publisher says it's 1 credit.
Right.
And I liken it to when I was in high school, okay, I'm taking my biology book home and I'm studying 4 hours at night. And the person sitting beside me, their biology book never left their left their locker. And we both passed. We might have both made an A, but I put a whole lot more time into it, but we both got 1 credit.
Right.
So that's kind of how you look at that. But now if your child is doing drama, art, music, those kinds of things, then that's where you get into actually for counting the time. Count your practice time, count your performance time, count your lesson time, and count that up. And that's how you come up with your 60 hours for a half credit or 120 for a full credit.
All right, there you go. That's the amount of time I was looking for. I was like, somebody tell me
But
the time.
I have seen a range of 60 to 90 minutes per half and 120 to 180. And when we're looking at curriculum and the content and that, remembering that a lot of times a publisher is going to put in extra material to try to cover the different learning styles. If a child's more interested in one area than another, give extra material, give options. And also a big thing that is a consideration that I'm always like, composition. Your literature or your English class includes composition and literature for 1 credit. Sometimes the curriculum comes and there's 6 different books.
A grammar, a spelling.
Doing all the reading and the writing and everything, but that's 1 credit. It's
1 credit.
1 credit. You don't get a credit for composition. You don't get a credit for literature. Because I've had some people send in. It's like, so they got literature and they got grammar and they got vocabulary and they got spelling and they got library skills. And it's like, no, 1.
All that.
Even
Now there are some books that combine multiple credits. Snodgrass, for example, says this is a credit for English and a credit for social studies or whatever the specifics are, U.S. history or whatever. So they're giving multiple credits for this amount of material. So you do have to pay attention to those kinds of things too.
And one thing I've told parents, especially about Snodgrass, because Snodgrass you can get. Let's use U.S. history because it's less confusing than the government and economics. U.S. history, you can get a full credit of U.S. history, a full credit of Bible, and a full credit of English/literature if you do everything that it says. But specifically, because I use Snodgrass, they're very good at breaking it down. So if you don't want or need the English credit from there, you just don't do this part. And so you can use it, leave those things off, and you get your U.S. history credit and move on, or get your, whichever, but you can get up to 3. So we talk to parents, and I think most of the publishers are pretty clear on how that breaks down when they're doing that. But yeah, you can get 1 book that's 3 credits, or you can get 4 books that's 1 credit. Just to keep it simple.
And I like how Tara had originally used 80% for the curriculum to count it as a credit. I think that's what you said originally. I like that it wasn't the entire curriculum because you have flexibility. If you miss an assignment or you skip a chapter, that doesn't mean the child didn't earn a credit. Because I have some parents who kind of get caught up and they're like trying to go past, a normal graduation date because they didn't do like 1 chapter. And you've got that flexibility as a teacher to omit things or add things.
And especially with math curriculum, a lot of times there's extra problems for the students who need more time. So, if you're looking at doing, that's when I look at mastery. If, he understands this concept, he knows enough of it to move on to the next one. Because yes, the concepts build, so it's good to have a firm foundation if they need to do. But a lot of times, you have so many more problems than they need to do to know that they know it, and then let them move on. So sometimes it's hard to see blank pages on that book you spent so much money for. You do half the problems.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, because the South Carolina grade scale is a weighted grade scale. So the grades matter. We do have a whole separate workshop that Laura and I did before. I'm going to have posted about assigning grades. And so we'll kind of skim over that for this particular thing about whether or not you're going to, how do I calculate grades? That's like a whole hour conversation for just that. So you do need to pick a number grade for your transcript. But the other thing that goes on our transcripts then is what the weight value is. And so let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so you have options. College prep is pretty much what everything's considered in the scale itself, unless you add to it. Honors adds additional work, and there's a framework that a guide that's there that tells you what to do. We used to kid and say you added three research papers and a presentation and you were good, but it's more complicated than that at times. But you add depth and rigor to the program, and it's not just this book says it's an honors level book. It's not a book or curriculum that's honors level. It's how you approach it and how you teach it. Then you have dual credit, which would be courses taken at a college, either online or physically at the college, that the student is awarded a grade in, and not the ones that they do earn college credit by doing CLAP or another kind of test to earn college credit. So it has to be, they have to actually earn a grade in it. And advanced placement, which is done through College Board. So to earn the advanced placement credit, it has to be a College Board approved advanced placement course. It doesn't mean that they take the test or they have to take the test. That's a separate part. So, and the advanced placement for me is confusing because students can study and take the advanced placement test and earn a score and college credit based on that score, but not actually do the test or not do the course that's an advanced placement course.
Right.
So that gets.
And I try to explain that to the parents by saying that test, that AP test, you can use any curriculum you want to prepare for that AP test. And the only people that matters to is the college, because that determines whether the college is going to allow them, once they're a college student there, to use that to get out of taking another class. What we're looking at is has the College Board approved that curriculum? And I've had homeschool moms actually submit syllabus to the College Board and get back that prized letter saying that their curriculum meets AP standards, and their kid not go take the AP exam, but they get the AP weighting for it. And so there is that. Now back to the dual enrollment. There are courses, especially at the tech schools, that are not technically dual enrollment.
Yeah, they have their own college credit.
Right. Those are your remedial, they call them remedial math and English programs when they do the placement test. That if someone had graduated high school and came to that school and they tested at this point, it's considered remedial because they're already a high school graduate. And so I have to talk to some of the moms and explain that doesn't mean your student is behind. Your student is a 10th grader. And so it's okay that they tested into these level courses, but we can't give you dual credit because it doesn't go toward earning a degree. It goes toward being eligible to take a course toward earning a degree. And so those are still considered college prep level.
Right. So it still can go on your transcript. It just doesn't get
goes
that
on your
weight.
transcript.
But
It
we
doesn't
have-
get the weight. So I mean, technically it's dual because they are counting it as whatever remedial college. It goes on their college transcript, but it can also go on your high school transcript, just not as that
Not weighted.
college
Not weighted.
value.
And Trident Tech has told several students that they can't do the remedial classes, that they won't do it, that they won't offer them. And if you're looking at using the, not scholarship, lottery dollars, Trident will apply lottery dollars, but not for remedial courses. So that will change, that will affect, how affordable the courses are too. Basically, they're doing a high school level course at college. That's what the remediation is. This is the algebra 2 you should have done to be ready to do our college algebra.
Right.
You know, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, I haven't ran into that at any of these colleges, that they would or wouldn't let them do those. So I'm surprised to hear that.
And they
about
may have
private.
changed their policy as well, but their policy was if the student doesn't test into a college, into a course that they will earn the credit, they're not doing it. And maybe they were just worried about that confusion, because it is confusing. Well, he's taking a course at college. Why isn't it dual credit?
Yeah, yeah, we get them from other colleges. So.
Yes. So, but these rules come from the Department of Education and the Commission on Higher Ed. So we're speaking this lingo because we've done lots and lots of workshops with the Commission on Higher Education. So if it feels like a foreign language to you at this point in time, it is. And we're here to help you translate what you've done in your homeschool so that it speaks the same quality and professionalism that the public schools are saying the same things. So, but you still can do a parent-made transcript, and that's one of the things that Laura has talked about before, that why she doesn't do ranking, why she doesn't require her members to do this. Because why?
Because the law puts the parents in charge of record keeping, and I don't want to take that from them. Now I offer it because I know you'll hit not opportunities, but hiccups where you need the help or where someone just won't take it from you. So I'm there to help you. But I'm just kind of a law purist, and that's more as a homeschool mom than anything else. I want to write my child's transcript, and of course, being the director, that's easy. But I want these parents to be able to do this as their school, and so I always recommend including a compliance letter with their transcripts when they go, and to have that law ready so they can talk to them. And I've had lots of parents who have successfully had colleges take them, but they were very confident when they went in because they knew the law and they knew what their right was.
Yeah.
I've had some
before we ranked students, we still offered, we still helped parents with it, and we still consider the transcript a parent issued transcript. The parents sign it as the administrator. And that's why we offer both the ranked and unranked transcript. They only need the ranked transcript if they're doing the scholarship applications and things. We have students who go to other colleges or whatever, and they're not interested in the scholarships or whatever. So they can just have the freedom of sending that transcript, and they don't need me to sign, because the ranked transcript I do have to sign and send with a ranking list. So this gives the parents the freedom to do it, but we also do submit it. And we've had lots of students come to us after the fact that needed a transcript, and that's why we did the transcript service. And then we found that our parents felt that they would benefit from the ranking process. And now, knowing that ranking exists, when they come, they know that they have to participate in the ranking. They have to do all of that. But we do the 2 transcripts because we do believe very strongly, we've always said, the parent's the administrator. And when it comes down to it, we give guidance and direction, but the parent is the administrator. So they have the final decision. So we might have some long discussions.
Yep. And I have several families that have been with me for years, and they always do their own transcript. They still submit the grades and credits, and I format one for them and send them back a copy of what I've done, but they use theirs.
Yeah,
they use theirs, and it's totally fine either way. Whichever kind of association you belong to, that you can still use your parent-made transcript, because that is your right. And so none of this is meant to take away any of your rights or overstep your responsibilities, because I give back your transcript that I formatted for you, and it's still for the parent to keep. I keep a
Yeah.
backup copy as a service, and I can send it on your behalf somewhere, but ultimately, if something happens to me or my association, the parent is still supposed to have a copy of that. And I deal a lot through the connection with associations that have closed, and they need someone to send their transcript somewhere because the school's being whatever about it. And a lot of times it's even the student who's trying to get someone to send my transcript now because something's happened to their parent. And so I'm like, do you have a copy of your transcript? And it's always the best case scenario when they do. Because I'm like, okay, this is easy. I can slap official on it and fax it over, and it is. I mean, they just need it to be faxed for some reason, or I like the part where they have to have it delivered in a sealed envelope. So, so their final transcripts that I send back in the mail to them, I have stamped envelopes with our return address on there, so I just have to lick it shut and hand it. And it's official.
Yeah. And Palmetto Homeschool Association, we have a board of directors that's been in place since 1996. And I mean, it's not the same people, but it's the same. We still have a board. And we have a full-time director, which is Denise. I am, depends on the time of the year, whether I'm full-time or not. So our board decided that if you're a member with us, then you get our transcript and we send it. It's still done under your family name. You submit the information, you submit the final grades. I generate the transcript. I send it back to the parents to go over and approve. And then we keep a copy of it in our records. We mail them a copy for their records. We archive. We have archived records for years back, scanned and all of that stuff. We have paper copy, it depends on when they graduated. So that if they ever come back, we do have access to that transcript to be able to send it out. The feeling behind the board was, what is the way we can open the most doors with the least conflict to the most opportunities for our students? And, we have members that say, well, I know the law says I could do this and that, but I would just as soon you send it and I don't have to go in there with all those stacks of papers to explain the law to them and do all that stuff. You can do that for me.
Well, things have changed over the years, policies, and the law has stayed the same. But unfortunately, there have been, several decades now that the homeschool law has been established, and there are people that have put together fraudulent reports, and the colleges are just trying to make sure that they're really applying correct scholarship dollars. And if they get caught and audited that they've offered scholarships to people that were not correct, I believe they have to pay it back.
Yes.
And so they're just trying to protect themselves. And so they need someone, just like on your resume, you would have to say, here are my references. That's sort of the services that I say we're providing, is by verifying these kinds of things, that we're that extra hoop. And when they see somebody else has verified it, it saves them extra steps, because otherwise, like you say, you might have to go in with your transcript, with your course descriptions, with your syllabuses, so that you can prove that this document that you prepared is actually correct and accurate. And so we're just trying to save some of those steps by being the middleman for that kind of thing. So while we're talking about this verification process, we had talked a little bit about the weight with the dual credit, so that you can get a college credit to go on your high school transcript, or you can do the AP courses, and both of those have documentation that go along with that. So what about when a parent says this is an honors level class and we did all this extra work? Do you have any verification processes that go along with that?
For us, because our entire line, if they put in that a course is honors level, that's one of the options. Then there is a drop down to where they have to check off and be aware of what they're saying when they say it's an honors level course. We call it an honors affidavit.
Mhm.
And part of what they are required to do as part of the honors affidavit is keep, there again, they're responsible for the records. They're saying that they're keeping a copy of that syllabus in their records to verify that that is truly an honors level course.
Mhm.
What an honors level course is not is, well, my child made all 100, so it must be honors level. No,
Mhm.
it's not based off of your child's grades. For the curriculum, it's based off of the rigidity of the work. I don't think that's the right word, but
I
how
say it
the
has to do
rigors,
with rigors.
Rigor.
Yes,
the rigors of the work. I knew I was like, wrong
I
word.
say it has to include like higher level thinking, teamwork, initiative, something.
Right.
You have to show what's extra about it. And
And
again,
some,
it's not just the word that a publisher put on there and said this should be worth honors credit on here, because that doesn't mean anything about how you implement it. You could have skimmed through the whole thing and it's not honors then.
You know, and we have reached out to different curriculum and said, you know, what about your curriculum, you know, different publishers, what makes your curriculum honors level? And they'll say the honors level standard is different from state to state.
Mhm.
And so they can't, most of them were like, I can't send you what would make, you know, how it fits the South Carolina standard for honors level. And most of them said it's not actually the textbook, it's how the material is taught.
Mhm.
You know, and they tell you add this or add that or do this or do that, but they're like, some of them that will have like their own like video programs that they say it's honors level. They say we'll back that up and say it's honor level, but if you just get the textbook and you do the work, we can't tell you because we can't say that that's how it was taught.
Right.
You know, it didn't include that rigor. It didn't include those extra things that we thought it needed to be. Plus, what is called honors level in South Carolina is not the same thing as honors level in another state.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
so that is
Right.
difficult. Like for us, I ask my parents, you know, I require our parents to send their honors level stuff to me by October 1st. So that I can just look it over and make sure that they're understanding. We have a checklist and they can say, this is what's been added to it. And that they know they're going to keep the syllabus and the course description, but they have the checklist to say that that's it. And I've informed parents too, that even if I say it's honors level, like it to me, I think I'm a reasonable person. This seems like honors level work. It has the rigor. It has these added things. A college still has the right to ask to see that and decide whether they're going to consider it honors level or not. And I think you addressed that scholarship thing. I think when they get reviewed periodically, and I think they're more rigid when they know they're coming under review and will look harder at some of the material, the courses and make sure they are honors level. And so I do a lot of that to try to make sure that my parents are prepared if that comes down to be an issue. Have a course description. I recommend course descriptions for every course because I can't remember what I had for breakfast. So I'm not going to know what kid when and what resources we used. Plus I'm really good at finding stuff and saying, oh, this fits here. And then if I don't write that down, then it's not going to be part of it. And I have a child who went back to, he didn't, like, I was so bummed, like nobody needed my course descriptions. And he went back to college. He went back to law school. And he was like, I need those course descriptions. I need the course descriptions. I need all of this stuff. And I was like, you have it in your hand. So, it's always be prepared. And like my third child did the Common App, and you will be glad to have those that you can just upload and not have to type in everything. So I'm strong, especially because computers make it easy. You can edit, you can add, it can be as long as it needs to be. You don't have to read your writing after you wrote things at midnight. And the computer will tell you if you spelled it right too. So you can
sometimes. Laura, did you have anything to say about honors?
Well, I was just going to say for my association, we actually do not put honors on parent taught classes. And the reason is because I feel that they would need to supply that honors framework and prove it to me. And I just have 2 members to approve everyone's honors classes. So I recommend all the other wonderful associations if you want to put honors that's not taught at an accredited school.
Yes, there's an honors framework that the public schools use in order to say that they're offering an honors level course, because it was kind of every school got to say what they decided. And so it was a way to kind of bring uniformity across all of the school districts in South Carolina. So there is some associations that actually use that honors framework checklist and use that as their verification for if you're going to get honors. And Laura's saying she doesn't have the time to do all that.
Yeah, it's very time consuming.
Yeah, it does. And that's why I need it by October 1st. Right?
Yeah, and we're kind of middle of the road. We allow it, and we have the checklist, but we don't review it and determine. That is the parent, in our opinion, the parent's responsibility to know that they have met that and to understand that they may be called to supply that proof.
Right. Right. It's me. I'll sometimes ask a question and say, what about this? What about this? What about this? If they're all honors, they're all hundreds, that's a red flag. And so we have to have a conversation about being accurate and, going back over some of these things that I told them in the beginning. I told you in the beginning, don't do that. And then here it comes anyway. But yeah, we want to put together an accurate reflection. And so be prepared. If that's what you're going to insist is right, then you're going to get questions. So then usually that's enough of a conversation to change it, because we're not trying to arbitrarily inflate our child's abilities and accomplishments. We don't necessarily need to put together a transcript that says my kid is wonderful, he should have gone to Yale or Harvard or MIT or something, so I'm going to do Tech a favor and send him there instead. They're getting a wonderful student because they're just the best. And so it doesn't do your child any favors. It doesn't do homeschooling any favors. So it's just a conversation that we're all having to say, what is the best resume that we can put together for your child? And so yeah, there's lots of things to think about here. And this was all about just the basics of high school. So I think we've covered the basics. One more thing. There's always lots more to say. Yes. What?
I'm sorry. Just you can start earning high school credit in 7th and 8th grade, but it does have to be a high school level course. And just because they take a high school level course in 7th and 8th grade, that doesn't make it honors level. So, that is one thing I see in our area, in the Low Country. There are pretty much all the schools, the children are getting keyboarding and computer applications, which are 2 pretty easy credits for a high student to get in high school, and they're going to need that. So it might be something that a parent wants to consider doing, something along those lines. And if they're ready to move forward in a math but they have to be able to do high school level work. And it has to be a high school curriculum, because I have parents come to me and their child has all these credits and we have a talk and it's like, not quite. So, it's knowing.
Right. And the other thing that makes this whole conversation flip on its head is we've been talking about getting into college, opening the doors, presuming you're going to be in this boat through the end of high school. If you're going to switch and try to go back into the public school, this whole conversation is a different conversation, because the public schools do not have to take our high school credits.
Right.
They have to take our students, but they do not necessarily have to take our high school credits. And that is a whole different conversation for a whole nother day. So for those of you who've been watching all this time, I encourage you to stick through with high school. It is much easier to graduate, and the doors of opportunity are really wide open. Our transcripts are acceptable for the state scholarships, for college admissions, for trade schools, for the military. What else am I forgetting? The doors are wide open.
The police force,
Interestingly, one of the hardest places several years ago that we actually had to go to bat for was cosmetology school.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because
Right.
cosmetology school was saying we will not take a homeschool high school diploma. You would have to go get a GED.
Well,
And
they
they were
were
saying it was the cosmetology board. So we sent documentation for a student from our organization, and they said, yes, we would take your transcript and your diploma, but we will not take a parent generated transcript and a parent diploma for that child to sit cosmetology boards,
right,
which
but
I thought was
we
interesting.
actually had a director, and I went with her, and she made her case about homeschool transcripts in general being acceptable there. So it shouldn't be a problem with the cosmetology board anymore. I haven't heard anything recently, although I have heard a couple of the cosmetology schools have an attitude problem and they don't want homeschoolers, but that they still have to take our transcripts. So that's a different issue.
We've had a cosmetology school come to our convention.
Yes.
That asked to come and do the college fair, and they are very open.
Yes.
And we've had 3 students in the past year go into a cosmetology school with a parent generated, essentially transcript. So a parent signed transcript.
Right. So, but this is the good news about all of this, even though it might be like, oh my gosh, what did I just get into? That we're trying to alleviate the weight of responsibility and that panic that you might feel. So hopefully we've done that. But the good news out of all of it is that it can be done. You can do this. This is honestly, I think homeschooling high school is easier than teaching an emergent reader to read.
It was my favorite.
I love high school. So let us help you. Find someone who can help you put together your transcript and translate all this craziness into that educational resume that opens the doors of opportunity and gets your child where they want to go. It's not a dead end. You've got places to go. We've got places, anywhere we can get anywhere from here.
And I think that's the gift of the option 3 groups, regardless. And we just represent, a few of them in the state, is they can be your ally in figuring these things out. And, it's a process sometimes, but going to having someone that is in the know that's been working in this to go to bat when your student hits a roadblock to help you move past it. And that's where option 3 groups, the leadership come in so important.
I'm sorry, because I just wrote one. NCAA takes homeschoolers.
Yes, they do.
They do. So
it's a few hoops to jump through, but they will take it.
I have to go to high school or I can't get an NCAA scholarship. Not true.
Not true.
Yeah, you can do that too. So NCAA is definitely on the table.
Yes.
Yeah, we've done those hoops too.
Yeah, those are fun.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. We're coming to the end of our time, so I'm going to call it a wrap. And we will see everyone in the next session. So thanks a lot for coming.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.